we covered chapter 4, which is titled Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. So in chapter 3, it was Karma Yoga. And chapter 4, it is Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. And today, chapter 5, we are going to come back to the topic of Karma Yoga. So why is Krishna talking about Karma Yoga so much? Oh, that's because Arjuna has some more doubts to begin chapter 5. So chapter 4, we discussed yesterday. Krishna has said that in Shloka 3.9, that we all have to work for him and do that as a sacrifice. And if we don't work for him, it's going to bind us. It's going to entangle us. Bind us, entangle us means it's going to cause us to accumulate papa and punya if we don't work for as a sacrifice for Vishnu. But to work for Krishna, we need to know who he is. Because if we don't know who he is, why would I want to work for Krishna? I need to know who Krishna is if I want to work for him, right? Because nobody can force me to work for anybody else. So it's good to know who you're going to work for. So in that context, Krishna will talk about himself. What is his position? What is it that we need to know about him that allows us to work for him in the proper mood, in the proper manner, so that working for Krishna is actually liberating for us. So yesterday, I think one of you asked or sought clarification on what moksha really means. Moksha means different things. So the Shastra has different meanings. Actually, there are layers of meanings to the word moksha. One way to look at moksha is that if I can live in a state of ananda or bliss, even while I'm occupying this physical body, and even while I'm in this jail of the material cosmos, that is considered liberation. Another meaning of the word liberation is what the Mayavadis or Sripad Shankaracharya has propagated. For them, liberation means merging with the Brahma Jyotir, losing their individuality, and when they merge with the Brahma Jyoti, there is no activity for them to perform anymore. They have left behind the material world, and therefore they are not experiencing any more duality, and there's no more anxiety because the duality is done with. Good, bad, happiness, distress, summer, winter, all of this is done with. But a Vaishnava's definition of liberation is very interesting. It is a two-pronged definition. One definition is that we are already liberated as long as we are using our body, mind, and speech in the service of Krishna. That is one definition, one unique feature of the definition of liberation. In the sense, recognizing that working for Krishna is better than working for oneself is in itself liberating, is in itself very joyful experience. Even though one may still experience some level of suffering, we will have some residual karma in this life. Still, just making the decision to work for Krishna in this life is itself a blissful experience. Trying to serve Krishna even in this life is itself a blissful experience, and that is liberating. Of course, the final definition of liberation for a Vaishnava is to go back to the spiritual world and discover the relationship in which we would eternally serve Krishna. And in that context, we talked about the 5 rasas. We have the Shantaras, which means one can love Krishna in neutrality. What does that mean? It seems a little bit weird to say to love someone neutrally. That doesn't seem to make sense. What that really means is that you accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord and you worship him as the Supreme Lord, but you don't deepen or strengthen your relationship beyond that. So for those who want to serve the Lord in this rasa called the Shantaras, they go to the planet where Lakshmi Narayana reside. They don't enter the planet where Lord Krishna resides with Srimati Radharani. Similarly, if you're in the mood of servitorship, the Dasyaras, in that rasa also, you will enter the Vaikuntha planets. There are trillions and trillions of Vaikuntha planets, and in each of those Vaikuntha planets, there are millions of Lakshmi Devis serving Lord Narayan. So these 2 rasas of Shantaras and Dasyaras, you will enter if you achieve final liberation. You will enter the Vaikuntha planets and serve the Lord there. The mood in the Vaikuntha planets is one of awe and reverence, which means the Lord is worshipped in his formal attire, let's put it that way. He's got the Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma. So Vishnu is a little formal, no, compared to Krishna. So that's the bhava or the rasa of the Vaikuntha planets, is that the devotees always know that Lakshmi Narayana are the Supreme Lord and his consort. So there is a formality in the relationship there. And therefore, the worship there is always one with awe and reverence. They know that he is God and they are the servants. With the other 3 rasas, which is the Sakya ras, the Vatsalya ras, and Madhurya ras, the Bhakta forgets that God is God, Bhagavan forgets he is God, and therefore the intimacy of the relationship is very different. The Lord forgets he is the Lord. The Bhakta is also made to forget that God is God. And therefore they are able to enjoy a different kind of relationship, a much more intimate relationship, whether as a friend or as a parent like Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, or as the gopis, and the topmost of the gopis is Srimati Radharani. So if you are eternally situated in one of these 3 rasas, then you will enter the planets called the Goloka Vrindavan. Goloka Vrindavan is where Lord Krishna resides eternally with Srimati Radharani. So this is the layers of the meanings of the word liberation. So Krishna has offered us a job in chapter 3. He says, come and work for me. Actually, he doesn't say, come and work for me. He said, you must work for me as a sacrifice. And then he says, those who don't work for me, well, they are going to be bound up. They will not be able to break free of the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. So Arjuna is a little bit confused because Krishna has talked about using knowledge and not fighting by coming to the right conclusion. But Krishna in chapter 3 has explained to Arjuna that to perform Jnana Yoga, you need to purify your heart. Therefore, it was better for Arjuna to perform Nishkama Karma Yoga. But to perform that yoga, so just give me 1 second, please. I was expecting a call. So to work for Krishna, you need to know who he is, what's your relationship with him, so that you can fully actually enjoy working for Krishna. So in that context, Krishna talks about the transcendental knowledge, knowledge about himself, knowledge about the Jivatma, and the relationship between the two. But primarily, chapter 4 is about the super soul. So where does this transcendental knowledge come from? Krishna says it's originated from me because I reveal this knowledge to the sun god Vivashwan. Vivashwan then gives it to Swayambhu Manu. Swayambhu Manu is the Manu that was there previously. We are actually now under the rule of Vayavasvata Manu. So this was revealed to Swayambhu Manu, and then Swayambhu Manu in turn reveals it to Ikshvaku, and from there on it has come down. And Krishna says, over a period of time, because of degradation of dharma, this knowledge is lost. And then in shlokas 4.7 and 4.8, very famous shlokas, the Lord says that he comes down himself to re-establish this knowledge, millennium after millennium. And in shloka 8, he says that he comes primarily to protect his devotees, to destroy the demons, and to re-establish dharma. So these are the 3 reasons that he gives in shloka 8. So we understood that this transcendental knowledge originates from Krishna himself. He himself reveals his knowledge. So that means the parampara originates with Krishna. And how is it received? It comes down in the parampara system. Who is qualified to receive it? Krishna says you have to be my disciple. For you to really understand who I am, you have to become my disciple or become my friend, Krishna says. And then what is the process to get this knowledge? Krishna says you have to accept a guru, be submissive, serve the guru, get your doubts clarified. And this is how one receives transcendental knowledge. So in that context, we talked about the 4 paramparas. What are the 4 paramparas? The Vaishnava paramparas, which is the worship of Lord Vishnu, established by 4 personalities who are all great devotees of Lord Vishnu. Who are the 4?
Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya,
Acharya,
Nimbasi Acharya,
Nimbarka Acharya, and
Acharya, Vishnu Swami.
But they are all disciples of who? So Ramanujacharya comes in the Shri Sampradaya, which means from Lakshmi Devi.
Lakshmi Devi.
Madhvacharya comes from
Brahma.
Brahma, yeah, originating from Brahma. Then Vishnu Swami from
Shivji.
Lord Shiva, yes.
Shiva.
And then the Nimbarka Acharyas, Nimbarka Acharya originates from the 4 Sanat Kumaras.
Sanat Kumaras.
Of Brahma. So these are the 4 Sampradaya. And ISKCON links itself to
Brahma Madhva.
And then there's one word we also added, Brahma
Gaudiya.
Gaudiya.
What does the word Gaudiya actually reference?
Comes from
Radharani.
word
Srimati
Gauri
Radharani.
Radharani.
Yes, because one of her other names is Gauri. So we are actually worshippers of Srimati Radharani. And in that context, we also talked about the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And the mantra actually, the word Hare refers to Srimati Radharani. So we are praying to the mother to use us in the service of our father. That's all it is. We're crying out to our mother saying, just like you are serving the father, we also want to serve the father. So please engage us in the service of our eternal father. So Krishna also talks about how he sets up the caste system. Well, technically we shouldn't call it the caste system. The right terminology is varnashrama. And we also understood that in the yoga ladder, it is a ladder of progression. So out of that ladder is the sinful. The sinful people do not follow the Shastras at all. Then there is the sinless but godless, which means they are good people, but they don't believe in God, they don't believe in scriptures. So they are also not on the ladder because they are not interested in yoga, right? So they are outside the ladder. So which means the ladder begins with karma kanda. Karma kanda means you are ready to follow the scriptures, but you want to satisfy your material desires. And whatever demigod or whatever processes or rituals you need to follow, you will follow it to get whatever results you want. Then above karma kanda, the next one is sakama karma yoga. Sakama karma yoga means you are attached to the duty as per the scriptures, but you're also attached to the results. You want the results. And then finally, nishkama karma yoga means you believe in selfless service, which means you become attached to the duty, but you do not worry about the results, or if you get the results, you use the results in the service of society. And then above this is Jnana Yoga, then Dhyana Yoga, and then Bhakti Yoga. And we said the only difference between Bhakti Yoga and Nishkama Karma Yoga is intent. The intent of a Nishkama Karma Yogi is that he is karma conscious. He is not Krishna conscious. So the Bhakta does the exact same thing, but he does everything to please Krishna. Krishna is part of the equation. Just give me 1 minute. There's somebody at the So the only difference between the Nishkama Karma Yogi and the Bhakta is their mood, their intent. The Nishkama Karma Yogi is not interested in establishing a relationship with Krishna. The minute a Nishkama Karma Yogi establishes a relationship with Krishna or Vishnu, then they automatically become a Bhakta. That means they are then practicing Bhakti Yoga. So whatever results a devotee gets, they will always ensure that they use a portion of those results or success, however you want to call it, back in the service of the Lord or his devotees. So that is important for us. And then in this context, we talked about, again, what is a karma, action in action and inaction in action. Vikarma is basically complete violation of scriptures. Karma is, or sukarma technically, is doing good deeds. Akarma is sukriti. We don't want to collect points for positive things we do and negative things we do. We would rather negate all of that, and we want to collect what is the eternal points of serving Krishna, which is called sukriti. That way, even if we have to take birth again, we are able to pick up where we left off from our previous life. So you can understand this very easily in our own families or extended friend circles, we would have come across young children who seem to be very, very particular about bhakti. They seem to be practicing bhakti at a young age. That is because they have practiced it in their previous life. And therefore, they are just continuing where they left off. So this is easily explained and easily visible. So which means any one of us who is also practicing Krishna consciousness, we can assume that we must have practiced some amount of bhakti, or we got the sukriti from somebody else that is causing us to practice bhakti in this life. So that is the level of understanding that we come to. And then, of course, Krishna says those who accept this knowledge and work diligently, they achieve success. Those who don't are jealous and foolish and unintelligent, he says. But there is one important shloka, which is 4.9, where Krishna says anybody who understands my nature, my transcendental nature, and my transcendental activities does not have to take birth again. So that is the secret that he reveals in chapter 4. So for today, chapter 5 is called Karma Sannyasa Yoga. So chapter 3 was titled Karma Yoga. Chapter 5 is titled Karma Sannyasa Yoga. And Srila Prabhupada translates this to action in Krishna consciousness. So let us say you like the job description, you like the idea of working for Lord Vishnu, then you need to know what is the benefit of working for Lord Vishnu. Otherwise, why would you want to work for him? So Krishna, at the end of chapter 5, is going to talk about the results of working for him, so that you're convinced once and for all why you should work for him. And you can make a decision and become his devotee. So this is chapter 5 that we will cover today. Let's offer our respectful and humble obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Yeah.
So today, chapter 5 also begins with a question. Arjuna is confused again. We'll find out what is his confusion. So in response to Arjuna's confused question, Krishna says you need to stay where you are. You cannot run away. So Krishna will come back to the original point that he made in chapter 2, that one cannot abdicate one's responsibilities. One must be very conscious about our duties and responsibilities. Then Krishna talks about the relationship between Bhagavan, Jivatma, and Prakriti. These are the three individuals. How do they interconnect? He's going to talk about that. Then he will come to a portion in this chapter where he will say, what are the qualities of his devotees? How do they achieve this transcendental platform? And then the final result is his devotees experience bliss, peace. They don't have to wait to go to Vaikuntha or Golok Vrindavan. If they are practicing bhakti here and now, they can experience Ananda. Hence, for a devotee, it's a liberating experience to be a devotee of Krishna and to practice Krishna consciousness, because you will achieve and experience the results that Krishna is promising. You will experience as long as we are sincere devotees of Lord Krishna. So let's go back to chapter 4 and let's look at the last few shlokas where Krishna is speaking. Krishna is saying, a faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. So he's not talking about, in this particular shloka, Krishna is not saying this person has gone back to the spiritual world. He's simply saying that those who understand me and my pastimes, and they begin to try and control their senses by regulating all their activities, they will achieve spiritual peace in this life. But, and then with the contrast, but ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. In the last two shlokas, Krishna is saying, one who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus, he is not bound by the reactions of work. So Krishna is saying, if you become his bhakta, you automatically also get jnana yoga. The beauty of practicing bhakti yoga is, when you practice bhakti yoga, it also includes jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and karma yoga. Automatically. A devotee can be considered a jnani. A devotee can also be considered a karma yogi. Because bhakti yoga includes the other elements on that ladder that we looked at. So Krishna is saying, if you've come to that highest rung of bhakti yoga, then the only thing you have is akarma, nothing else. He is not bound by karmic reactions. Then Krishna tells Arjuna, therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance. Krishna is calling Arjuna ignorant because he's asking questions. Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be splashed by the weapon of knowledge. And then Krishna is saying, armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. So when Krishna says, armed with this knowledge, stand and fight, again Arjuna gets confused. He's saying, on the one hand, you're telling me to become your devotee. On the other hand, you're telling me to renounce everything. Now again, you've confused me, Krishna. So am I supposed to renounce or am I supposed to act? So the same question that he asked earlier in chapter 3 comes back again as another question to Krishna in chapter 5. See, we have two enemies within us. One is our desire, the other is doubts. What kind of desire? Material desires. So to address the doubts, the enemy of desire, that is actually chapter 3. Krishna is saying, have desires that are dovetailed with me. Have a desire to work for me. Don't work for yourself. So our first enemy is our own desire. And Krishna addresses this first enemy of our material desires in chapter 3 by telling Arjuna, work for me. then your desires also will get purified. The second doubt all of us have as human beings is the second enemy that we have is doubts. We always have doubts. Is God real? Is this all imaginary? Why should I chant 16 rounds? It seems silly. Repeating the same name over and over and over and over again. Is this process really going to work? Did somebody just concoct all of this just to make us feel good about ourselves? We have so many doubts. And those doubts can only be addressed through knowledge. So what are the two enemies that we have? The two Ds.
Desires and doubts.
So desire is addressed in chapter 3, where Krishna says, have spiritual desires, don't have material desires. In chapter 4, your doubts is destroyed by the weapon of transcendental knowledge. So Krishna is saying, armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. So Krishna will keep saying, fight, 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 fight. So let's see chapter 5. How does chapter 5 begin? Arjuna said, "O Krishna, first of all, you ask me to renounce work. And then again, you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is beneficial? Am I supposed to renounce work, which is what a Jnana Yogi would do? Or am I supposed to be your bhakta and work?" So this is the doubt that Arjuna has. So the Lord replies, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. So Krishna is saying, Jnana Yogi also will give you liberation, which is the Brahma Jyoti. Being a bhakta also will liberate you. And then Krishna expresses his preference. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. So Krishna is saying, being my devotee is better than being a Jnana Yogi. Later on in the later chapters, he'll explain why. We'll not get into that now. So what is Krishna saying? Working for Krishna by becoming his devotee is better than renouncing all of your duties and responsibilities and only studying the scriptures. Which is, don't try to be a Jnana Yogi. It is better for you to be a bhakta and continue exactly where you are. Which is why in this slide, Krishna is going to emphasize why we need to stay in this world. We cannot run away. His preference is that we stay where we are and do our duties and responsibilities to the best of our ability. So the first 12 shlokas talks about Krishna emphasizing why we need to do our duties and responsibilities based on what position or what gunas are influencing us and what kind of work that we do. So Krishna then says, one who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, O mighty armed Arjuna. So this is a Jnana Yogi. And then Krishna says, only the ignorant speak of devotional service as being different from the analytical study of the material world, which is Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Yoga. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both. So Krishna is saying ultimately you will get liberation. The quality of the liberation will be different. But ultimately, if you're going down the path of Jnana Yoga, or if you're going down the path of Bhakti Yoga, both of them will be liberated. Right? So let's go through the slides now. Oh, sorry. The acronym for today is STEP, which is staying in the world. Who are the three doers we talked about? The Lord, the Jivatma, and Prakriti. Equal vision of those who have achieved this complete understanding of who Krishna is and who they themselves are in relationship to Krishna. And then Krishna will say, what is the peace formula? If you work for him, what is the result? Which is spiritual peace. That's what we all want. We want Ananda. So Krishna loves using analogies. One of the analogies he uses is like a water on the lotus leaf. The water can just, doesn't get into a deep relationship with the leaf. A little bit of shaking and the water can just fall off. So the water doesn't get itself attached to the leaf. It's able to just float on the leaf. So Krishna is saying that's how we should be. We should be in this world, but not completely off this world. We are forced to be in this world. We have to work. But we should try to be detached from entanglements. Very difficult to do. Very difficult to do. Actually, that's one of the questions that Arjuna actually poses in this chapter. So the question is, should I renounce my work or should I work in devotion? That's the question. And Krishna says both of them are going to give you liberation, but we are going to go into the difference between the two here on this slide. So working in devotion allows us to recognize that our eternal position is that we are here to serve Krishna. We are eternally his servants and he is eternally our master. Whereas when you're renounced, you become so detached. There is no relationship that you've established with the Supreme Lord. And when there is no relationship, it is hard to maintain this kind of detachment. Because it is human nature to have a relationship with someone or something. Prabhupada says, why do we get married? It's because we like the idea of serving. And then after the marriage sours, we think, oh, if we have children, it will get better. Then we have children. They bring us great joy, but then after some time they become annoying because they start disobeying you. And then you think, what is this? Maybe when they grow up and leave the house, I'll be happy. So we are always looking to serve, and we think if we serve others, we will find happiness. But for a Jnana yogi who has to give up all his relationships and only focus on himself and the Paramatma, there is no relationship there. So therefore, for a Jnani, it becomes difficult for a Jnani to maintain his position of being detached because it is not natural. The natural tendency for a human being is to be in a relationship and to serve. And the Jnani is giving up both. He's giving up relationships and he's giving up service. When you give up both, what is left? How can you really enjoy yourself when you give up both? Therefore, Krishna says, working as a devotee is better. It's a superior process. Because being a Jnani is actually unnatural. It doesn't come naturally. The second difference is that if you become a devotee, just practicing devotional service cleanses your heart so that it prepares you to enjoy your relationship with Krishna. the more your heart gets purified, the more you become a very compassionate human being. And we'll talk about the qualities of a devotee. The problem with Jnana Yoga is because there is no service, there is no relationship, the heart does not get purified. As a matter of fact, the heart gets hardened. You become indifferent to people's suffering because you are so into this black and white world. You are not able to connect with other Jivatmas. You are not able to inspire other Jivatmas to take to the process of bhakti. Because for you, it is only you and you alone. Therefore, this is considered a stopgap solution. It cannot last for long. Being a bhakta is a joyous process because you're using all your senses to serve Krishna. Whereas trying to be a jnani, you are trying to artificially control by rejecting everything. You know, so we say devotees also like to party. We also like to eat, drink, and dance. Whereas a jnana yogi is giving up all of that. No, I will not eat sumptuous foods. I will not dance. I shouldn't smile. This life is very serious. So a jnana yogi is doing the exact opposite of what a devotee is doing. A devotee is engaging his senses actively in the service of Krishna. Whereas a jnana yogi is negating and rejecting his senses because he's afraid of his senses. He's afraid that if he succumbs to his senses, everything will just be lost, whatever he worked out for. A devotee ultimately achieves complete renunciation when they go back to the spiritual world. Whereas a jnana yogi does not enter the spiritual world. They enter the Brahma Jyotir, they cannot enter the Vaikuntha planets, and they cannot enter the Goloka planets. Therefore, their renunciation is also considered incomplete. A devotee achieves Krishna prema. A jnani may have to take multiple births, and by the mercy of another devotee, if they come in contact with a pure devotee, then maybe they can take up to Bhakti Yoga. But to perfect Jnana Yoga in one lifetime is not possible. That's the problem with Jnana Yoga. So how to act in Karma Yoga? Work becomes worship. You try to keep your mind and senses under control. You act without attachment or a desire for results. And if you get results based on whatever Krishna benedicts you with, all you do is you use the results back in the service of Krishna. That's all. And a devotee will use their body, mind, and senses for the purposes of purification. Remember, Krishna says that lust is hiding in the senses, mind, and intelligence. The senses includes the five senses: your eyes, your nose, ears, your tongue, and touch. And we said the hardest organ for us to control in the body is the tongue. The tongue, the Shastras say the tongue is like a snake. If you don't control it, it's poisonous. So therefore, the best way to control the tongue is to only give it Krishna Prasadam and to engage the tongue in chanting the holy names of the Lord. This process begins the purificatory process. Then, of course, the mind and intelligence can be engaged in reading the Shastra, understanding the Shastra, preaching, etc. And the rest of the body can be used in serving the Lord. We talked about using your skills, whatever it is that you're good at. So, for example, We have one devotee who has retired from Indian Oil Corporation and he was into finance. So what do you think he's doing in the temple? How is he serving?
Probably looking out the financial.
Yes, he's taking care of the temple finances. Because the Lord is the proprietor. Temple means it's the property of the Lord, it's not our property. Which means any funds that come into the temple belongs to
Krishna.
Krishna. It belongs to the deities. Therefore, we have to be very careful in how the funds are used and spent back in the service of Krishna. Right? So similarly, those who are fond of cows will come and do their seva in the Goshala. Those who are fond of cooking, where are they? They are in the bakery, or they are in the deity kitchen, or they are in the devotee kitchen, because they enjoy cooking for the Lord. So each of us has to find a way where we can engage our senses. So for me, since I like to preach, so I am using my time and energy in trying to do as much preaching as possible, to bring more Jivatmas and connecting them to Krishna. That makes Krishna so happy. Krishna says in the 18th chapter that those who preach are very, very, very dear to him, he says. He uses the word very, very, very dear to me. So Krishna himself is saying preaching is an important activity because he wants you to connect the other suffering Jivatmas back to him, correct? We discussed in the Secrets of the Gita Reveal program. We are all children of Krishna. If I was lost and confused, but somebody else helped me, connect me back to my Father, and now I'm so happy because of that. Shouldn't I do the same thing for others? Isn't that the best gift that I can give to somebody else? Is to connect them back with Krishna. So inviting them to the lectures, inviting them to the temple, inviting them to festivals in the temple. This is the way that you can preach, by connecting the Jivatmas back to Krishna. That's the best gift. As a matter of fact, Srila Prabhupada says, that's the best service one can do for humanity. Connect them back with their Creator. And then let their journey begin. They can make progress at their own pace. We don't have to worry. We will make progress at our pace. They will make progress at their pace. But at least they have started their journey. So a devotee is always thinking, how can I connect others back with Krishna? Because I have benefited from it, I want others to benefit from it. So this is actually true compassion. True compassion. This is universal brotherhood. So what is the result of somebody who performs devotional service? Krishna says, such a person is unaffected by sinful action. Such a person, Krishna is saying, a devotee becomes very dear to everybody. And in turn, everybody else becomes dear to the devotee also. So it's a two-way street. Everybody loves the devotee because he's so compassionate, he's so kind, he's so considerate, he's always looking to serve you. Similarly, a devotee sees everybody as children of Krishna. So let's recite the shloka. Brahmanyadaya karmani
Brahmanyadaya
karmani
sangam tyaktva karoti yah
Sangam
tyaktvā
karoti yah
lipyate na sapapena
lipyate sapapena
padmapatram mivam bhasha.
Padma Padmam Ivamashta.
One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. So, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord means what? So we discussed this yesterday and also I think in the previous class. Krishna is not saying give up everything to me. Of course, that is full surrender, but not everybody can do that. Only very pure devotees can give up everything to Krishna. You and I, we cannot do that because we have responsibilities towards our family. And as I mentioned yesterday, we are actually practicing what is called mixed bhakti. We are not practicing pure devotional service because to get to that purity, it'll take some time. So surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord means whatever gains that you get as a result of being a devotee of Krishna, Krishna is saying just use it in my service. Use a portion of it in my service. That's all. And if you do this, Krishna is saying you will be unaffected by sin. So this is an important shloka. Now, very important question from Arjuna. As a matter of fact, all of you will have the same question. How is it possible to work without desire to work, without desire for result? Is it possible? Can you work without desire for result? That's what Krishna seems to be telling us. Is it possible? Is it possible to work without a desire for results?
No, Mataji, for a long term you cannot. At some stage we fall.
So what do we do then? Krishna is saying work without being attached to the results. How do we do this? It's the same question Arjuna has for Krishna, but how am I expected to fight without thinking about winning? Isn't it very difficult to do this?
Yes, Mataji.
So Arjuna is going to ask the same question. He's going to tell Krishna, Krishna, I think what you're suggesting is extremely difficult to do. Actually, Krishna has already given the answer in chapter 3. When he talks about, great leaders, we need to follow great leaders, he says. Who should we accept as a guru and how careful should we be in our own behavior and conduct? In that context, Krishna gives 3 examples in chapter 3. The first example he gives is Janaka Maharaj. Janaka Maharaj is the father of Sita Devi. He says, Janaka Maharaj was a great devotee of mine, but still he performed. He had so many responsibilities as a king on his shoulders, so many worries. But still he was my devotee and still he was a great king. So Janaka Maharaj is considered one of the 12 Mahajans in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Krishna gives Janaka Maharaj as an example in chapter 3. And then he gives himself as an example in chapter 3. He says, when I come, although I am the Supreme Lord, I don't have to work. He says, even I come and do my duties. So Krishna gives himself as an example in chapter 3 saying, even though I am the Supreme Lord, do you see me taking it easy? Did I not get up and do my duties and responsibilities every day, even though I technically don't have any duties and responsibilities, Arjuna? And then Krishna explains to Arjuna in chapter 3, do you know why I do it? Because if I didn't do my duties and responsibilities, the whole world will follow my example. So Krishna is saying, it is possible for you to do your duties and responsibilities without having a desire for results. And then he gives examples. He says there are a whole lot of other leaders who do this exceptionally well. These are the three examples that Krishna gives in chapter 3. So Arjuna is asking that question again, and Krishna is revalidating that it can be done. And in this context, in the Gita Secrets Revealed program, we talked about how, the rishis are wondering, how does Janaka Maharaj manage to do both so well? And they are curious because they are thinking, we have given up everything and we are not able to concentrate on Krishna. We don't have family. We are exclusively practicing Krishna consciousness and we are not able to succeed. How is Janaka Maharaj doing it? Because he's got so many responsibilities on his shoulders. And out of curiosity, they go knock on his door and then he invites them. He says, I'll not answer your question today. You come tomorrow. I'll answer your question. And when they go the next day, they are very anxious to hear the answer. But Janaka Maharaj says, no, but first you should all honor prasadam. And very nicely, he makes them sit down and he begins serving prasadam. And when they look up, each of the rishis sees a sword hanging over his head, hanging from the ceiling. And of course, this concerns and worries them too much. And they look at Janaka Maharaj saying, Maharaj, what is this? Are we safe? And he says, please don't worry, you are perfectly safe. It's not going to follow me. So they Hare Krishna, happy birthday. So you've got your cake ready?
Yes.
Okay. So we should sing happy birthday.
I want to cut my cake.
Huh?
She's asking you to stop the class because
Yeah, I noticed. I promised her I would stop the class for to
Yes,
celebrate your
Mataji.
birthday. Okay. So today you are 9 years old?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, very nice. Did you already cut the cake or you're waiting for us here?
Waiting, Mataji.
Okay, all right. So everybody, please turn your videos on so we can sing and greet Yuva. Yuva is a very young devotee. She is memorizing the shlokas, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1. So let's just greet her on her birthday. So, we sing a slightly different song in ISKCON. We don't sing happy birthday to you.
Yes, Mataji.
Do you know what song we sing?
No.
Yes. Hare Krishna to you. Hare
Krishna to you.
Hare Krishna, dear Yuva. Hare Krishna to you. You should ask for the prayers and blessings of everybody who is on this call. You should ask them. Remember, I said you should beg, right?
Yes, Mataji.
So ask everybody. Go ahead.
Prabhuji and Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji and Mataji's, yeah.
Blessing I want. Please bless.
Please bless me.
Please bless me, Mataji. Prabhuji.
Yes, so that I can be a wonderful devotee of Lord Krishna.
Because I want to be a wonderful devotee of Krishna.
So yes, so we are all offering our prayers. We'll all recite the Hare Krishna mantra 3 times as a blessing for you so that the Lord may protect you and give you all the intelligence, knowledge, and desire to serve Him. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Go ahead and cut the cake, and then I will continue with the class. By the way, I got your cake. Thank you very much. I've not opened the box yet. We cannot see you. Actually, I cannot see you cutting the cake.
Yeah. Okay. Mataji, can you see her now?
I can see her, but yes,
Yeah,
there you
yeah,
go. I can see
yeah.
the cake now. Yes. So very nice. Hari bol, hari bol, hari bol.
Hari bol.
Be bold.
Yes, thank you. I have accepted it.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Okay, Mataji.
Thank you. Hari bol. Have a blessed day, and my best wishes to you. I sent you a message. I hope you heard the message I sent you.
Yes, she heard. We were in satsang, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
We just came home. My entire family is here. My mother,
Oh, Jai,
my
Jai. Please
Yes,
accept all of our
sister-in-law.
namaskar and our blessings to your
Yes,
daughter,
yes,
your
yes.
granddaughter Yuva. She's very sweet. She's already practicing Krishna consciousness, so we have a lot to learn from her. Thank you very much for sharing your birthday with us. Bye.
Bye, Mataji. Continue with the class, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So as I was mentioning, sometimes little children take up to Krishna consciousness, and it's really hard to explain why or how that happens. But we enjoy it, and we encourage them to continue practicing Krishna consciousness without any fear and without any apprehensions about, something terribly will go wrong in their life. Nothing will go wrong in their life. They're already under the protection of Krishna, as Yuva is. So Yuva is chanting one round every day, and she invites her friend home in the afternoon and makes her friend also chant one round with her every day. So that's how sweet she is. And she is memorizing the chapter 1 shlokas from Bhagavad Gita as well. She actually recited the first 10 or 12 shlokas for us a few weeks back. So very sweet devotee. But we will get back to the topic of Janaka Maharaj, where Janak Maharaj was saying, don't worry about the swords hanging over your head. You're quite safe. And of course, the rishis trusted him. They honor the prasadam, and then later on they ask him, so tell us what is the secret. So Janak Maharaj just asks them a question in return. He asks them, when you are honoring prasadam, what was on your mind? And they said, although we were honoring prasadam, we were still, even though you assured us that the swords would not fall on our head, nevertheless, we couldn't help but think of the sword. So Janak Maharaj said, so similarly, in the back of my mind, I am always meditating on Lord Vishnu, even though externally I am busy doing my duties and activities. So when I'm constantly thinking about Krishna, then I don't have to worry about the results, because I know the results are going to be determined by Krishna, right? So that is the example of the pastime of Janak Maharaj. And hence Krishna uses Janak Maharaj as an example in chapter 3. When he says Janak Maharaj is a great soul who is able to do both, be a devotee and also still perform his duties and responsibilities very nicely. So we now come to the topic of the three doers. So what happens? Krishna says, when we have a desire, this is the process flow, the process map of how this actually happens. Because we have free will, we can desire for whatever we want. So Krishna is saying, when the soul desires, the super soul has to sanction that desire. If the super soul doesn't sanction that desire, then that desire is not fulfilled. So how does the super soul sanction that desire? The super soul actually checks to see if that Jivatma has sufficient credits in that karma tank for that desire to be sanctioned. So the Jivatma desires, Ishvara sanctions that desire based on what is available in the karma bank account. And when Ishvara sanctions that desire, the department that enables and fulfills that desire and makes it come true is Prakriti. So Prakriti fulfills the instructions of the Lord for that particular Jivatma. So when the desire is fulfilled, what happens? The Jivatma becomes temporarily happy. Let's assume this is a material desire. But if his desire is not satisfied and he wants more, or he becomes even more obsessed, then he becomes morose. So if the Jivatma desires, but Ishvara or Supersoul does not sanction, then it leads to the Jivatma becoming frustrated and feeling hopeless about this. So this is how actually everything works. So going back to chapter 2, the 59th shloka, where the Lord talks about how we need to curtail our desires by replacing the lower tastes with higher tastes. So we also discussed that higher tastes is basically ABCD, associating with the other devotees, reading Shastra, chanting, doing Sankirtan, doing deity worship at home or serving the deities in the temple, and also changing one's diet to honor just Krishna Prasad. So Krishna then will take a few shlokas to explain the qualities of his devotee who has achieved the transcendental platform. So please repeat after me. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne
Vidya
Vinaya
Vinaya
Sampanne
Brahmane Gavihastini
Brahmane
Brahmane
Gavihastini
Gavihastini
Shuni Chaiva Shvapake Cha
Shuni
Jaiva
Shvapake Cha
Pakecha
Pandita Samadarshinaha.
Pandita
Pandita
Samadarshinaha.
Samadarshinaha.
So here the Lord is going to talk about the pure devotees who have achieved absolute Krishna prema. So here Krishna is saying the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. So essentially, when you come to this platform of purity, you will not see duality anymore. Everybody is equal in your eyes. You are compassionate towards everything, including a mosquito. Because as a pure devotee, you are seeing the Paramatma in every single Jiva. The external coverings may be attractive or not attractive. Yes. So we talked about how Uttanga Rishi, right? He asks for a boon from Krishna saying, whenever I feel thirsty, I need to get water. So the first time he feels thirsty, a Chandala comes with 4 dogs. But he doesn't come with water. He actually comes with Amrita in his bag. But when Uttanga Rishi sees this Chandala who looks very unkempt and dirty, he decides, oh, I am high class, this person is low class, I shouldn't accept water from their hands. So he missed the opportunity to get Amrita from Indra's hands because Indra had come in the disguise to test him. So the Rishi realizes for the second time how much he is yet to go on this platform of transcendental knowledge. So this is the quality of a pure devotee. They are gentle, they are compassionate with everyone and everything. Equal vision. And because they're gentle and compassionate, they also don't get perturbed. Good things happen or bad things happen to them. They are very tolerant. They acquire this quality of titikshava, of being able to tolerate anything and everything. They are genuinely kind. And most importantly, they give up unrealistic expectations of others first and of themselves as well. So when you can live without expectations from others, trust me, that's the quickest formula for peaceful existence. When you have expectations of others, whether it is your spouse, your children, your parents, your boss, when you have expectations of others, it creates a lot of dissatisfaction, a lot of distress and anxiety. So a sage will not have any expectations of others, but he will have very high expectations of himself. So this is how you reach that result of peaceful existence by practicing Krishna consciousness. So this is the result of working for Krishna. This is the result of understanding who Krishna is. This is the result of actually practicing Krishna consciousness, is genuinely achieving this peace. So Krishna will conclude this 5th chapter with a very important shloka, where he will say, if everybody simply follows this path, there will be peace everywhere. There will be real universal brotherhood everywhere. And everybody will treat everyone else as a child of God. So what is the peace formula? Please recite the shloka. I'm sure some of you are familiar with the shloka. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam
Bhoktaram yajna tapasam
sarvaloka maheshwaram
sarvalokamaheshwaram
suhridam sarvabhutanam
Suhritam sarvabhutanam
Jnatva mam shantimricchati.
Jnatva mam shantiracchati.
So what is Krishna saying? A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods. So Krishna is still establishing his identity. He's telling us who he is, that he is the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So Krishna is saying, if everybody understands, I am the ultimate enjoyer. Bhoktaram. Bhoga means to enjoy. Krishna says, I have created everything for my enjoyment. If everybody understands this and therefore offers everything to me, because I am the enjoyer, then any sacrifice and austerity that we perform, if we direct it towards Krishna to please him, then we will be benefited also. How? Because we will receive Krishna's mercy time and again and again and again. We will be the recipients of his mercy. And Krishna is saying, Suhridam sarva bhutanam. I am the well-wisher of all the living entities. I am not at all partial. If you come to serve me and work for me, automatically you get my mercy. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. I am the well-wisher for all the material universes, not just for a select few. Gyatva mam shantim rachati. Krishna is saying this is the peace formula. If everybody offers everything to me and works for me and understands my position as the supreme controller and enjoyer, then automatically I will benedict everybody. Because after all, I am your well-wisher, Krishna says. So, Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam, Krishna says, I am actually the real enjoyer. But when you offer something to me, you also get something in return. You get my mercy, which is actually very important for us. We need Krishna's mercy because we can't make progress in our life without receiving the mercy of Krishna. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, he says, I am controlling everything in this cosmos. Nothing can happen without my knowledge, without my sanction. Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. Krishna is saying, you need to know that I am your best friend. You cannot have a better friend than me. I am your well-wisher. I want you to be happy. I don't want you to be miserable. But to come to this stage, you first need to understand who I am and what is your duty and responsibility to me. Yeah. So with this, we come to the end of chapter 5. We will pick up chapter 6 tomorrow. Vancha kalpadarupyascha